Well, we all knew the show was coming since it's been the same show in politics ever since it happened. But yeah, even the completion of a new election and the certification of new results have to be viewed through the context of January 6th. So we'll hang our heads in mock sorrow because, see, this is how you handle the peaceful transfer of power, unlike last time, which was pretty much the Holocaust and slavery combined times infinity.
We need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery. We need to never forget because past becomes prologue if you forget any race.
Yeah, but it's not moving on by forgetting or as though nothing happened, though. It's moving on after aggressively prosecuting the case to the end of the earth. It's moving on after the Justice Department already conducted its largest ever investigation and prosecution effort, actually. It's not move on without justice. It's move on because justice, at least your concept of it, has been served at its longest possible lengths. But of course, even that is not enough. Us rubes should be more grateful for the effort and more remorseful for our lack of concern for it, especially since we so foolishly prioritized our own quality of life over the sacred principles of our democracy.
I think it underscores what a singular figure Donald Trump is in American politics, that he is the only person who would have asked for this to happen, yet the public is still with him. And to Essie's point, because at the end of the day, the cost of living and feeling safe in your own home is more important day to day than American democracy.
Yeah, we shouldn't mind living in hell so long as we retain the right to vote for hotter flames. And besides, what is hell compared to January 6th anyway? It's practically paradise, and we'd be wise to remember that. How easily Republican members of Congress forget how their faces were so heroically saved from the creeping stomp of the fascistic grandma boot.
It would be my honor to make it as uncomfortable as possible for the GOP members who try to whitewash that day and lie about what happened and pretend that we didn't save them.
Those even left to save at all, of course, because Attorney General Merrick Garland is still pushing the lie that there were so many of those who went unsaved, those killed in action, he says. Garland released a statement Monday commemorating that fateful day. He said he's thinking of the 5 officers who lost their lives in the line of duty. Of course, as we all know by now, that's a lie. Brian Sicknick died the day after of a stroke attributed by the medical examiner to natural causes, which is why no homicide charges in his case were ever brought. The other 4 were suicides after the fact, 2 of them happening over 6 months later in July. But in a preposterous display of hypocrisy and irony, Brian Sicknick's brother Craig spoke at a D.C. rally on Saturday and demanded that Congress refuse to certify the election results pursuant to the 14th Amendment.
Our founding fathers never envisioned someone as flawed as Trump running for, never mind winning the Oval Office, and did not make provisions to prevent a convicted felon from doing so. They did, however, provide a mechanism to prevent someone like Trump from taking office in the form of Article 3 of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. I came here today to urge Congress to do its job and block Mr. Trump from taking office a few short weeks from now.
So it's the sanctity of our democracy, unless you vote that way, because in that case, the founders clearly intended your disenfranchisement. Forget all this constitutional technicality. I say we just settle this like men. A duel by fire extinguisher at dawn. Now, mostly all of that is just political posturing. Oh, look how good at conceding we are, even though we really shouldn't even be conceding. That's the point. But it's not actually all just rhetoric. There is still January 6th legal maneuvering happening at the Justice Department. Despite the election results, the Guinness World Record holder for largest prosecution effort ever is still looking to expand the record. Much like Special Counsel Jack Smith started packing up his office after November 5th, he dropped his 2 Trump cases, and the only remaining fight is whether he'll publicly release a report or not. One might expect DOJ prosecutors to do the same with pending January 6th cases, at least low-level ones. Well, yeah, there are lots of cases of trespassers and unauthorized paraders that we haven't gotten around to. But since Trump is coming into office and will most likely direct an end to those prosecutions or issue pardons or some sort of clemency, let's move on to other things. But that is not what the DOJ is doing. Instead, on Monday, the January 6th anniversary, the DOJ announced the opposite. We still have some 200 more January 6th indictments that we're going to bring, actually. And about 60 of them are for felonies, like attacking or resisting police officers. In other words, we are still going to bring hundreds more charges, but mostly for low-level things so uninteresting and insignificant that we don't even care to describe them. This while praising themselves for prosecutorial restraint, of course. Well, sure, we've got 200 more cases to bring, but hey, we were very thoughtful about it. We declined some 400 other cases, mostly of people walking around and not even entering the building. See, we could have nailed people to the wall, but instead, we used thumbtacks. So please join us in praising our glorious mercy. We didn't abuse all of our power, just most of it. But still, why? Obviously, the political motive to treat every last possible January 6th case harshly has been the story ever since that day. Or if you don't think there is overriding political motive and you interpret things much more charitably, maybe the sheer volume of January 6th cases necessarily means that some of them were so long delayed that they could only get to them now, but we'll still pursue all of them in the interest of justice, even if the clock runs out on that pursuit. But just in practical terms, why? Why go through all of the effort of investigating and preparing charges in some 200 cases that are very likely to go nowhere, very likely to be dropped by the incoming president or reduced or erased, even if they ever made it to guilty plea or conviction? Well, that's probably where there's some strategy or maybe even a political trap. These prosecutors and many other DOJ personnel may be a lot of things, but they aren't accidental. You can bet they are operating intentionally. They know Trump is talking about pardons and clemency for at least some January 6th offenders very early in his new presidency. And one would assume they are assembling their plans with expectation of that move. And very oddly and almost simultaneously with this announcement of hundreds more charges still to come, the Justice Department is now renewing its search for the most elusive January 6th villain of them all, the infamous pipe bomber. On Thursday, the Justice Department released new, previously publicly unseen footage of this person who, of course, left homemade explosives at both party headquarters on the morning of January 6, 2021. They can find every last footprint that stepped a toe on any unauthorized ground that day. They just can't find this guy, in part because, dang it, the phone location data that would help find him has been corrupted, or maybe find her. And that's the new revelation after 4 years of surely diligent investigation. Advanced technology has helped the FBI measure just how tall the pipe bomber suspect is with reference to nearby markers and objects. He, or maybe she, is approximately 5'7". The fact that it took the brightest government technicians 4 years to make this calculation is the most believable part of this story, actually. But the question remains, why have the DOJ and the FBI been withholding any pipe bomber evidence from the public at all? Why have they held on to select video angles until now? Why are they suddenly now hoping for someone new to come forward with more information on the eve of a new presidency? It's speculative, but is it possible that the DOJ is actually sitting on a sealed indictment for the pipe bomber right now, and they'd just like to dress it up a bit last minute if they can? As William Pope, a January 6th defendant himself, wrote over at Revolver last month, at any given moment, the DOJ is sitting on a few dozen sealed January 6th indictments. Now, who knows what those are or could be, but it is certainly possible that the pipe bomber is one of them. So what happens if a DOJ prosecutor, knowing that Trump will issue a broad day one pardon for January 6th offenders, waits until, say, 11:59 the night before Inauguration Day to unseal that pipe bomber indictment, in the hope that Trump will then unwittingly pardon the worst, most high-profile offender, at least of those yet to be charged, thus creating a massive political controversy. And making such a move in combination with new charges for dozens or hundreds of others, as the DOJ is openly talking about, would certainly help to conceal it as much as possible. Now, of course, even if that trap was set, it's not as though it's unmanageable for Trump. All it takes is a moment of restraint to review all of the indictments before issuing any sort of broad pardon, a few days, more realistically. Yes, there will be many who want action more immediate than that, but given the years of prosecutorial overreach in this event, a few days or even weeks of review to correct it is not going to be a political disaster. So it's less about serious political consequences at risk and more just a question of what remaining January 6th hijinks are afoot. Because for as silly and exaggerated as the political use of it 4 years later seems, that is what it actually demonstrates. January 6th is a political Swiss Army knife, and every last tool in it gets unfolded. Given the visible movement, it looks like a lot of that unfolding is still happening right now. So keep your eyes peeled, because that midget with those rare Nikes is still on the loose and probably isn't done yet. Just like his pipe bombs, he might be waiting for just the right time. And actually, did anybody ever even check it closely? Because the curiously low resolution of that photo doesn't let us see it very well. But was that thing set to 4 hours or 4 years? Maybe the time until its actual disruption is still ticking down. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on X, that is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chatting my live streams. Those live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.